Caroline Forbes and Bonnie Bennett. The two supporting female leads of the Vampire Diaries who were so great that they nearly single-handedly kept fans watching. They deserved the world, great character development, good love interests, and a role in the plot that would lift them up. But they got none of that. Instead, the writers of TVD mistreated and used these women at every turn. At first, I planned on making a video of these two characters separately, but when I saw the success of my comparison videos, seriously, thank you guys, that means the world, you're making my dream a reality. I realized that these two would be much better in one video. After all, they are both fan favorites, and they were both done wrong by the writers in different, but I'd say parallel ways. Hello everyone and welcome to the Reulerverse. I apologize for the weird lighting. I don't know what's going on with the weather today. I'm gonna try to fix it in post, but if it's still a little odd, that's why. Just bear with me here. I'm Renee Rule, an author who gives writing commentary and tells otherworldly stories. And today we are going to be talking about Caroline Forbes and Bonnie Bennett. They were both done dirty, but if we were to directly compare the two, who had the worst arc in the Vampire Diaries? Let's find out. Spoiler warning for the Vampire Diaries, obviously. I will be talking about the entire show, as these ladies have a huge role in it. If you want to avoid spoilers, please watch the show before proceeding. For those of you who don't know or are less familiar with Caroline and Bonnie, they are the best friends of the protagonist Elena Gilbert, having been close since childhood. Early on in the show, they both find out about the magical world and become supernaturals themselves, with Caroline turning into a vampire and Bonnie realizing she's a witch. Then throughout the narrative, they use their powers to protect those they love, mostly Elena, from even more powerful supernatural threats. They are both loyal, layered, and in my opinion, way better friends than Elena deserves. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Elena like many people do, like, goodness, in my Bella vs. Elena video, you guys were brutal. But I cannot deny that Elena, more often than not, does behave in a way that only has her own self-interests in mind. Caroline and Bonnie sacrifice right and left for her, and she doesn't even seem to notice. This is the core of both their problems, and the reason I decided to compare them today. So with that background information out of the way, let's start with the beautiful and bubbly blonde. Caroline Forbes. Caroline was born on October 10th, 1992 to William Forbes II and Sheriff Elizabeth Forbes. Her two-parent household did not last long though, as at one point her father came out as gay and left the family for a man. Early in the show, Caroline is known for her nosy, somewhat annoying personality. Despite being one of the most popular girls in school and head of the cheerleading team, she's sort of a third wheel to Bonnie and Elena's close bond. As a result, she constantly seeks validation from them and from her romantic relationships. On multiple occasions, she tells them about how she doesn't feel good enough and wonders why the men she likes always choose Elena over her. Beats me, girl, you are so much better. They don't know what they're missing. I digress though. This insecurity clearly stems from abandonment issues caused by her parents' divorce, making her constantly seek attention and validation from others. Classic stuff. Honestly, Caroline reads like an open book, but that's not a bad thing. Enter Stefan and Damon. When Stefan and Damon Salvatore move to Mystic Falls, Caroline's world is turned upside down. At first, she is attracted to Stefan and tries to date him. However, he rejects her brutally, and she quickly realizes the only person he's interested in is Elena. To cope, she goes out with his brother because he openly pursued her, and she wants so badly to feel like she is wanted. Tragically, though, Damon mercilessly uses her for his own sick ends. Caroline is physically violated, has her mind controlled, and is taken hostage by Damon to use as a pawn in his rivalry with Stefan. Honestly, it is sickening watching what happened to her, and it sets up Damon as an extremely hateable character. However, at the time, at least in season 1, this was the intention of the writers. And luckily, there is a somewhat satisfying end to this arc. When Caroline becomes the victim of an attack from Catherine, she passes away, but she does so with Damon's blood in her system. As a result, she comes back as a vampire and quickly catches on to what's happening. Her memories of what Damon did return, and in a satisfying confrontation, she berates him for his actions. It takes Caroline a while to get used to being a vampire, and she makes a tragic mistake, unaliving a man when she got too thirsty. but Caroline is a quick learner. Once she gets the hang of her new form, she outdoes every vampire in the series with her incredible self-control. Her obsession with getting people to like her and planning every detail of her life went to her advantage as a vampire, as retaining one's humanity takes a lot of hard work. Caroline loves working hard though. That is a cornerstone of her character and something very admirable. So far, this is an excellent start to a character arc with so many different avenues that it can go down. And I must admit, Caroline does have some really amazing moments. My favorites were her enemies to lovers story with Tyler, although Tyler himself isn't a good character, we'll talk about that later. The plotline where she had kids, even though that had problematic implications with Alaric, and the heartbreaking arc where she lost her mother. I wish I could gush about how amazing these arcs were for Caroline, and don't get me wrong, I did enjoy them. But while they were fun to watch, my writer brain cannot ignore their blatant flaws. Tyler's character was static throughout the series, keeping his hot-headed and impulsive nature no matter how many life lessons he learned. This in turn brought down Caroline as she was around him all the time. Also, I don't care what y'all say. That love triangle she had with Tyler and Klaus was weird as heck. I mean, Caroline and Klaus are a cute couple. I cannot deny that they look hot together, but conceptually, they don't make any sense. I feel like because so many people liked Klaus as a villain and his redemption arc that they have collective amnesia of the sheer gravity of sins that he committed in season 2. To refresh you all, he unalived Elena's Aunt Jenna right in front of them, attempted to take out Tyler, and actually took out Bonnie and Elena, Caroline's best friends. Remember, Bonnie went down trying to use her powers to defeat him, and Elena went down in the sacrifice ritual. Now, they came back to life, of course, everybody comes back to life in this show, that's a discussion for another video, but that should not and does not excuse Klaus's actions. Honestly, when Tyler found out about Caroline's relations with Klaus, that was one of the few moments where I was on his side. His anger was completely justified, yet instead of treating this as a moment of growth for Caroline, as she did make a massive mistake, the show treats it as if Tyler is overreacting. It's crazy. Meanwhile, in the kid plotline, I actually liked the idea of it. I know that's an unpopular opinion, a lot of people online didn't like it, but I did. It's funny that Caroline became a pregnant vampire despite the fact that it should be impossible. It's also wonderful to see the love she has for her kids and what an amazing mother she becomes. However, it's hard to enjoy this story because of the man she got pregnant with. I mean, her former teacher? Really, writers? I know she's a surrogate and they don't actually do anything physical, but it's still weird. It's even weirder that the writers decided to have Alaric fall in love with Caroline. Geez, that's wrong in many ways. It's a good thing she never returned those feelings. The only great and memorable arc for Caroline, in my opinion, was in season 6 when Caroline's mother got sick with cancer. Caroline's slow decline as her mother's health deteriorated and desperate attempts to save her life, as well as Stefan's failure to support her properly, was masterfully done. I cry every time I watch that final scene where Caroline is learning to ride a bike and she keeps begging her mom not to let go, telling her that she isn't ready, but then she does let go and Caroline rides the bike perfectly on her own. What beautiful symbolism in a show that normally focuses on drama, not storytelling. However, even this arc is retroactively stained by the next. When Stefan rejects Caroline due to not being ready to date again, she decides to turn her humanity off. And I must ask, why? She's seen what that has done to her friends. The people they hurt, the regret they had. Sure, she had a plan for it to be different than them, but of course it fell apart. Why wouldn't it? The humanity switch always makes vampires evil without fail. It's the writer's little cheat code to experimenting with morality with their characters. And in my opinion, it's really bad and ruined most of the characters. When I see Caroline in this abysmal arc, all I can think about is how her mother is rolling over in her grave. This is everything she promised she wouldn't be, everything her mother was afraid of her becoming, and it happened immediately after her passing, retroactively ruining the message that Caroline was quote-unquote ready to spread her wings without her mother. Sure, Caroline comes out of it and tries her best to make amends for her actions, but that doesn't erase what she did. The show likes to pretend it does after a little bit, but that's not how accountability works. But enough of that. I've made my point. Even the best arcs with Caroline had massive issues, but what about some other ones? And by extension, her story as a whole. While most of the arcs in the Vampire Diaries aren't actually about Caroline, which makes sense actually, she's not the main character after all, it's not all about her. Some standout ones though are her romance with Klaus and her friends-to-lover storyline with Stefan. I've already expressed how I'm not fond of Caroline's story with Klaus. He's a fantastic character, don't get me wrong, but they don't make any sense together. Meanwhile, Stefan, I like the idea of them. Them starting off on the wrong foot only to realize they're meant for each other, that could have been amazing. But the way they executed it was so underwhelming. Their first intimate time was when both of them had their humanity off, and every scene that's supposed to be romantic has no chemistry. Not to mention Stefan sacrificed himself literal hours after their wedding. This left Caroline alone while Elena and Damon get to have their happy ending, and even more tragically, Caroline seems okay with that. That's not even the worst part though. Throughout the series, Caroline is established as this straightforward and realistic woman who doesn't pull punches with her advice. Not only that, but she's always there for Elena, putting her life on the line multiple times to save her, even when Elena doesn't want to be saved. However, when Elena starts dating Damon and Caroline expresses understandable reservations against it, Elena completely disregards her feelings, guilt-tripping her into getting on board or else she's not being supportive. This could have been an interesting moment of conflict for these characters, but as many of you already know, Caroline doesn't protest the relationship for long. It feels gross that she eventually becomes good friends with Damon. Look, I get that forgiveness is cool. There are a lot of forgiveness arcs that I really like in media, but when some certain lines are crossed, they cannot be uncrossed. Caroline could have become reluctant allies with Damon in a stressful situation, sure, I'm willing to believe that, but friends who like each other and like hanging out with each other, but approving of him dating her best friend after everything he did? Not a chance. He has done way too many bad things to deserve that. So as you can see, Caroline's arc is a huge mixed bag. There are some great moments, some of my favorite in the series actually. However, almost all of them are dampened or straight up ruined by the writer's need to play favorites. Caroline's romances were either lame or problematic, and most of her time was spent looking after Elena with almost no appreciation from her. Then, in the end, her husband does one last sacrifice to save his brother, giving Elena and Damon a happy ending and leaving Caroline all alone. It doesn't feel fair. Caroline should resent Elena for this mistreatment, for all the time she's had to sacrifice for her happiness, but she doesn't. It leaves me feeling bad for her, even though she's supposedly happy in the end. But honestly, you guys, what Caroline went through is tame compared to our next one. Now that we've thoroughly discussed Caroline, it's time to talk about the last friend in this trio. You know her, you weep for her. Let's see how she too was cheated. Bonnie Bennett. Before I dive into Bonnie's character, let's get one super important thing out of the way. Yes, I am aware of how her actress Kat Graham was treated on set, how she was forced to wear wigs instead of her natural hair, how she was discriminated against due to her race. I watched Friendly Space Ninja's breakdown of the Vampire Diaries, great video by the way. I know it took Ian Somerhalder, the actor who played Damon, threatening to quit just to keep Bonnie's character from being wrongfully killed off. All of this is abysmal and should not have happened, but it's not what I'm focusing on for this video. I'm focusing on how Bonnie Bennett, the fictional character that Kat was playing, was portrayed on screen. If you want me to talk about the actress, I will do so at another time. Bonnie was born February 5th, 1993 to Abby Bennett Wilson and Rudy Hopkins. However, neither of her parents were present in her life. Instead, she was raised by her grandmother, Sheila Bennett, who served as a mother figure. Bonnie didn't have much in her life. She didn't know about her parents or where she came from, so she put everything she had into her friendship with Elena, and they became very close before the start of the series. When Bonnie finds out she's a witch, Elena is the first one she tells. In the friend group, Bonnie serves as a close confidant who is known for being empathetic yet feisty when she needs to be. She is a Bennett witch, which is the most powerful bloodline in the world. Therefore, she is needed to perform spells to save her friends throughout the series. Knowing all this, it's natural the burden of this power would weigh on Bonnie, and she'd inevitably have to make decisions that save some and doom others. Right off the bat, this is a fantastic concept for a character. It gives the writers opportunity to explore extremely morally gray paths, where Bonnie has all the power to decide who she saves and who she sacrifices. Inevitably, there may even be times where refusing to act is the best choice. After all, why would Bonnie give a vampire whose natural inclination is to hurt people a daylight ring, allowing them to walk in the sun? If she does that, and the vampire does indeed hurt someone, Bonnie is partially responsible. Everything she does has ripples on Mystic Falls and even the world at large, on who lives and who perishes. As the Spider-Man film said, with great power comes great responsibility. Bonnie's arc should have been the embodiment of that statement. For those of you who have seen the show though, and I assume that's most of you, you know where I'm going with this. Unfortunately, Bonnie's arc does not explore those themes. There are a few moments where she has to make a difficult choice, but every time she tries to do what she believes is the right thing, Elena or another character berates her for it, and she bends to what they want. There's even a terrible scene with another witch where Bonnie talks about all the sacrifices she's had to make for her friends, and the witch basically tells her that that's her duty, that she doesn't have another choice, that she was, quote, meant to be in the middle. Excuse me? What message is that supposed to send? That you're supposed to be there for your friends even if it kills you? Even if they harm others because of the power that you gave them? And trust me, that happens all the time in the Vampire Diaries. After all, the humanity switch is a thing, and most of her friends are vampires. Her friends turn evil and then go back to being good all the time, and yet she is supposed to help them? That doesn't make any sense. It can't be all bad for Bonnie though, right? After all, she has a grandmother who will guide and support her, and two best friends who claim they'll always be there for her. Yeah, about that. Bonnie's grandmother passes away in the first arc of the show, and she does so as a sacrifice to get Catherine out of the tomb. Damon forced her and Bonnie to do the spell to free Catherine, and Sheila overexerted herself. This teaches Bonnie that if one self-sacrifices, there can be deadly consequences, and that if she is to survive, she has got to be more rigid and uncompromising, especially with vampires. I actually enjoyed how after this arc, Bonnie was more jaded than before. She even refused to help Elena stop a trap that would take out all vampires in its vicinity, citing that it's better if they perish, even if Stefan is, quote, one of the good ones. When I saw Bonnie going down this path, I was excited. It seemed like a natural progression of her character, and I couldn't wait to see the drama that would come of it. Friendships broken in the name of keeping peace. She'd get to see who truly supports her and who's only in it for themselves. But, as again all who watched the show know, this arc was only a phase. After seeing the consequences of not acting, aka Stefan almost losing his life in that big vampire trap, Bonnie feels bad, and for the rest of the show, she basically becomes the main character's on-call witch. On occasion, she bites back, expressing resistance to a plan because of how risky it is, but she always ends up going along with it anyway. Honestly, the show kept telling us that Elena was a martyr and that Elena was selfish, but I always felt like Bonnie fit that description way better. She puts her life on the line for her so-called friends more times than I can count, and sometimes even straight up unalives herself for them. Then her friends feel guilty, but when they're in trouble again, and they're always in trouble, trust me, they go straight back to asking Bonnie to do it all over. Okay, so Bonnie's only real family is gone, and her friends always use her. What about her love interests? Surely they'd be on her side and stand up for her. Well, Jeremy kind of does. I need to give him at least a little bit of credit, but most of the time he's stuck in his teenage melodrama. He even cheats on Bonnie that one time too, so I really cannot say that Jeremy was a good partner. What about... It seems that any other love interest Bonnie is given in the show is unalived immediately. If you don't believe me, look that up. Yikes, that's really bad. Wait, there's Enzo? Yes, finally a man who is a main character, who is kind and intelligent and worthy of her. He may have shown up late in the series, and they may have a less than smooth history, but it's season 8. I'll take any win Bonnie can get. Man, I'm so glad that after all this time, after all the one-sided sacrifices she's made for her friends, that she's going to get a happy ending. This is so great. Oh yeah. Stefan removes him from this world for no reason, and Bonnie ends up alone. God, that's depressing. I can't even be angry about this. It's just sad. I know I said I wouldn't talk about what the actors went through on set, and I won't, but even before I found out about what happened behind the scenes, I got vindictive vibes from Bonnie's arc. It's as if the writers hated her and wanted her to suffer as much as possible. Game of Thrones Season 8 gave off that vibe too, as if the writers were tired of the show and wanted to move on to that new Star Wars gig they got, so they rushed it and didn't care at all about making a good ending. To this day, I still believe they hated their own fans. As a writer myself, I have a good sense for author intent, so I believe these assumptions are true about both Game of Thrones and The Vampire Diaries. In the end, whatever character Bonnie had at the beginning of the show was forgotten. She became a martyr the showrunners used over and over without taking into account the consequences. More often than not, she was used as a plot device rather than a person. Oh, most witches cannot do this spell? A Bennett witch can? Can't get out of this prison world? It turns out only Bennett blood can be used to escape. Bonnie's effort, her blood, and even her very life were always the key to getting the main characters out of every conflict. It was exhausting, and there was absolutely no payoff to it. The most neglected character. Now that we have all the information, it is very obvious who our winner is. We don't have to do any kind of technical comparison like I do in other videos. Honestly, I think a lot of you clicked on this video already knowing who would win. You just wanted to see me break this down, and I thank you for watching this far. It really helps. Our winner today for which Vampire Diaries character was done dirtier is Caroline Forbes. I'm kidding, it's Bonnie. Obviously Bonnie. I'm not fond of Caroline's arc in the Vampire Diaries. She was used by Elena too. There was also that one time that her lover got unalived by Elena for dumb reasons. Also, Caroline's plotlines were either problematic or straight up weird, and her love interests were less than satisfactory. She also lost the love of her life in the finale, just like Bonnie. However, unlike Bonnie, Caroline got to say goodbye. Caroline got closure with Stefan, and the peace of mind that his sacrifice stopped Catherine forever, which is what he wanted. Bonnie never got that luxury. Not with her grandmother, the first person she lost, not with anyone else she loved, and especially not with Enzo. And that does it for our character comparison video today. Thank you for watching this far. I really appreciate it. I thought I'd do this month's comparison video a little differently. Instead of comparing the characters' writing quality, we compared their experiences. Let me know if you liked it. With that, I hope I've inspired you, and I'll see you in the next video. If you want a story where the characters' experiences actually make sense, check out my books. There's 2 different ones you can read. One is free and the other is paid. The links will be in the descriptions.